Thank you very much. I'm from Japan, HK. My name is Tanaka. Nice to see you, Mr. Amano. First of all, on North Korea, how do you feel? How do you feel close? You were inspector going back to Nyeonbyong.
How close?
Yes, you are feeling. And one more question of Fukushima. And when are you going to send your team to Fukushima power plant to investigate contaminated water? Thank you.
Okay. First, regarding the question, when IAEA go back to North Korea, the honest answer is we don't know. The reason, the reason is that in order to go back to North Korea, we need a basic political understanding, at least among the major stakeholders, and only based on this basic understanding, we can take action. You may recall that North Korea is not a member of the IAEA, and when the IAEA takes action with a country that is not a member, we need support from the Board of Governors. Nevertheless, the IAEA Secretariat is prepared to go back anytime. We maintain the level of training. We stay, get prepared, and when there is political agreement, we will seek the authorization from the board, and we'll send back our staff who are ready anytime to be back. Next question about the sending of the peer review missions of the IAEA related to the contaminated water. We are planning to send our peer review missions in autumn, perhaps towards the end of October. That is the IAEA mission on decommissioning, and it covers the contaminated water issues. Sorry, November, sorry, November. The date is almost decided, but as I'm traveling, I don't have the latest information, but our plan is to send it out to the end of October. No, November, sorry.
Hello, my name is Miho Takashima with Tokyo Broadcasting System. There are a lot of commercial satellites pretty much in the public saying that the Yeonbyong facility reactivated. Do you share that assessment? Could you first of all elaborate on the IAEA assessment, what is happening in Yeonbyong, and how concerned are you with the status quo? Thank you.
We are aware of the media report on the observation or findings by the satellite imagery using the commercial satellites. We are also following the issue through various means, but because of the nature of the issue, I am not able to discuss it, and I hope you understand it.
Michael Gordon, New York Times. At the last meeting of the P5+1, it was noted there was a positive tone, the atmospherics were good. It was agreed that it was a kind of meeting that required follow-up, as indeed will happen next week. And it seems from your remarks that in the IAEA's dealings with Iran, there's also been a positive atmosphere that's going to result in follow-up. But what people are waiting for and waiting to see is whether this positive tone will yield concrete, specific steps that result either in increased monitoring of the Iranian program or some constraints on their current activity. From your perspective, from the IAEA perspective, what specific concrete steps would you like to achieve in the upcoming weeks and months that would signal progress in dealing with Iran? Something that went beyond atmospherics and positive discussions.
For us, it is important that additional protocol will be implemented. Timely information about the nuclear facilities, activities of Iran will be provided, and some other issues with possible military dimension will be clarified. These are the whole set of issues that requires concrete measures. However, in practical terms, not everything can come overnight, and Iran proposed a step-by-step approach, and this proposal contains some substance. We are now working on that, and we'll carry it towards to the November 11th meeting.
Could I just ask just a quick follow-up? Is the Iranian step-by-step the priorities they set out in terms of how the process should work? Do you think that that's the correct way to proceed, or do you have your own ideas about how to proceed, and that's what remains to be discussed with them?
Our view is that there should be a basic agreement that all the issues, past and present, should be resolved through cooperation and dialogue, and that all the issues that I mentioned should be clarified and implemented. But that is a process, and that is a process, and that cannot be done overnight. And we are now working on them. And the measures need to include the transparency, timely provision, or clarification of possible military dimensions.
Thanks. Sean Tandon, colleague of my esteemed Michael at AFP. Getting into as well to Iran, with the upcoming meetings, you mentioned you can't get into the detail, but how important do you think these meetings will be? Is this potentially a make or break moment in terms of the diplomacy with Iran, or do you see this as just one stage? And related to that a bit, in the administration here in the US, there's been a call to not suspend sanctions, but to freeze movement to further sanctions. I realize the IAEA has a different role, but do you have any view on whether this is the time to be freezing those sanctions efforts, the additional sanctions efforts?
We think we are in a very important period. We have been negotiating for quite a long time, but the negotiation went round in circles up to quite recently. And after the coming of President Rouhani, we see first a change of tone, change of atmosphere, and now we see some substance in their proposals. So we need to work seriously and constructively to work out an agreement. Regarding your question about the sanctions, the IAEA is not dealing with the sanction. It is addressed by the United Nations Security Council Security Councils, or in the P5+1 or EU3+3 talks. And the sanction is not under the competence of the IAEA.
Thank you, Director General. My name is Jean Nguyen with Voice of Vietnamese Americans. With your capacity, your power, all you have done, thank you very much. Would you share with us the data we have on the nuclear capacity of China? Since I feel that as China rising and we recognizing its global power moving forward is the most important factors that the US and the whole world knows about where China is with its nuclear capacity and its intention. And there's a small question tack on to the question earlier that Vietnam is also getting into nuclear energy, not power. But Vietnam has tremendous problems with waste management, health infrastructures, and all that. So is there anything that you can suggest with Vietnam or the UN to put in as a policy for other similar nations to apply, to implement when we're getting more into the nuclear energy? Thank you.
I said that by 2030, there would be an increase by 17% at the minimum and 90% at the maximum. But geographically, the center of expansion is in Asia, and more specifically, China, India, and South Korea. So it is very clear that Asia, and in particular, China is the center of expansion of the use of nuclear power. I understand that China is very serious about ensuring safety and security, and China and IAEA are working in close cooperation. Regarding Vietnam, Vietnam is also planning to embark on nuclear power. Again, IAEA and Vietnam are working very closely. We have worked together. I have visited the country, and now the ambassador of Vietnam to Vienna is the chairman of the board. We have been supporting and will continue to support Vietnam to strengthen the nuclear infrastructure to embark on nuclear power.
Thank you. Fadi Mansour with Al Jazeera Network. You may recall the red line set by Israeli Prime Minister last year at the UN regarding the ability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon. Based on the expertise available to your agency, if the Iranians were to decide to produce a nuclear weapon, how far do you think they are from achieving that goal? And if I may take a second shot at the question.
Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Do you have any kind of assessment if the Iranians were to decide to produce a nuclear weapon, how long it will take them to do that? The second question is, again, on the issue of the sanctions. I guess I would like to rephrase it in a way to see if you think that any easing of the sanctions now would create a more positive atmosphere for negotiations between your agency and the Iranians. Thank you.
Well, these are two issues. The prospect for the time needed for Iran to develop nuclear weapons and the effect of sanctions. Unfortunately, these are not my field. How long it will take to develop nuclear weapons is your question, but our function is how we can ensure the activities stay in peaceful purpose. And we are not providing military outlook. And I hope you understand our function. Also, regarding the sanction, we don't have the word of sanction in our statute, and we are not negotiating or involved in the sanction-related issues. What we do is to send our inspectors to the ground. We verify and we share the information with member states to facilitate the decision by member states. We say that in the IAEA Iran route, we had some constructive meeting. Iran made a proposal which contains some substance, and we reported to the member states, and we share it with media. And it is some other countries, member states, that need to make their policy.
Last question.
Hi, my name is Kobayashi with Kyoto News of Japan, and I would like to make just one follow-up question at P5+1 meeting. About regarding the proposal for the process to building the mutual confidence building, at this point, do you expect the IAEA could be involved in the verification process of the measure? Thank you.
IAEA has been involving in the verification from the beginning, and this is our work. And we are in charge of the verification of nuclear activities of Iran and the other countries, and we will continue to do so. And as I mentioned, the P5+1 and IAEA Iran route are different route. And our main focus is on the verification.
Okay, thank you all very much for coming, and thank you, Dr. Amano.
Thank you. Thank you very much.